Imagine navigating a pitch-black, jagged limestone tunnel 30,000 years ago. Your only source of light is the warm, dancing glow of an animal fat lamp, casting long shadows against the wet stone. Deep inside these caves, early humans performed a multi-stage technical task. They ground minerals like hematite into fine powders using stone mortars, then mixed them with water, animal fat, or even their own saliva to synthesize durable paints. Looking at the ceiling of the Altamira Cave, we can see the results of that labor. These overlapping red bison show a deep understanding of movement and anatomy, evidence that these artists were highly skilled observers of the natural world. The archaeological record shows these nomadic hunter-gatherers were far from the grunting caricatures often depicted. They lived on a highly varied, protein-rich diet of large game and wild plants, resulting in tall statures and robust physical health. To survive the Ice Age, they engineered a specialized toolkit. Evidence like this napped flint hide scraper shows they used stone to carefully remove hair and epidermis from hides, creating the leather needed for tightly sewn clothing. While Paleolithic life was dangerous, it offered wide-ranging freedom. These groups moved across vast distances, maintained strong skeletons, and dedicated significant time to complex artistic expression. Around 10,000 BCE, the global climate shifted. As the last ice age ended and the earth warmed, longer dry seasons allowed wild cereal grains like wheat and barley to flourish in fertile river valleys. Over many generations, the predictable growth of these grains led some nomadic bands to slow their migrations. They began staying in one place for longer periods to harvest and eventually cultivate these new food sources. This shift required a new interaction with the land. The development of the ard, a wooden plow pulled by horses or oxen, allowed humans to actively till the soil, rather than simply gathering what grew naturally. This transition from hunting to farming was the start of a cycle of permanent dwelling, launching a pattern of life that would eventually replace nomadic movement across the entire planet. By 7000 BCE, that transition resulted in settlements like Çatalhöyük. Located in modern-day Turkey, these excavated mud brick foundations reveal one of the world's first dense permanent communities. Roughly 6,000 people lived here, packed into a single continuous block of houses. There were no streets. The settlement was a solid mass of architecture where walls were shared between neighbors. Daily life happened on the rooftops. Residents entered their smoke-filled interior rooms through ceiling hatchways, using ladders to descend into living spaces that doubled as kitchens and sleeping quarters. Despite the cramped conditions, analysis of burials and house sizes shows a society of equals. There are no signs of kings or mansions, and men and women appear to have shared identical diets and social status. These early city dwellers traded the wide-open expanse of the Paleolithic for a life that was intensely communal, localized, and socially dense. However, the shift to a heavily grain-based diet had immediate physical consequences. Relying on starchy cereals meant early farmers were consuming fewer types of nutrients than their ancestors. This data comparison reveals a medical crisis. When we look at Neolithic skeletons, we see a sharp drop in bone density and a sudden spike in dental decay and metabolic disease compared to the hunter-gatherers who came before them. The grueling, localized labor of farming also left its mark. Constant plowing and the manual grinding of grain led to visible joint degradation and spinal compression in these early agricultural populations. In these cramped houses, families lived in constant proximity to their deceased. They buried their infants and loved ones directly beneath their sleeping platforms and hearths, keeping their ancestors inside the home. For the individual, the transition to farming was a physical decline, introducing chronic disease and repetitive stress injuries that were largely unknown to the nomadic hunters of the Ice Age. If farming was so hard on the body, why did it persist? The answer lies in the output. While brutal to produce, agriculture generated a reliable, storable surplus of calories that wild foraging could not match. This chart of global human population tells the story. After tens of thousands of years of flat growth, the line takes a violent surge upward around 10,000 BCE. A reliable food supply allowed populations to grow at a rate that was previously impossible. This surplus changed the structure of human labor. For the first time, a community could produce more than it could eat, meaning not every person had to spend their day in the fields. This freed individuals to take on specialized roles. Artisans began crafting clay pottery for storage and weaving cloth, while dedicated specialists created complex ritual objects like this sculpted female figurine. These early humans traded away their physical robustness and nomadic freedom for a secure communal foundation. It was a bittersweet bargain that caused individual suffering, but it provided the stability and surplus that allowed human culture to compound and eventually build the world we recognize today.